All right. So I want to go back to your career for a second. I don't know how you view it, but I think a lot of fans kind of divide up your career into maybe three eras. There's the ROH era, the WWE era, and now we're in the AEW era. So what I'd like for you to do is kind of compare and contrast the last few years that you've spent with AEW versus that long period where you were with WWE and then earlier in your career with ROH and other companies, and how the last few years have been different for you.
Yeah. So the early parts of my career, I know a lot of people associate it with being Ring of Honor, and that was the main thing that was like got the most public interest, right? But the first part of my career was essentially just exploring and learning, right? And exploring different avenues as far as like, okay, what kind of wrestler did I want to be? Learning different things. Like I was very uncomfortable on the microphone when I first started, and I was very shy, and the idea of going out and pretending to fight people in spandex underwear was not like, that's something that scared me to death. So it's like getting over these fears and articulating, there's a lot of people in creative processes who think this way. At first you start off by mimicking the people that were your heroes in a certain aspect, but then you transcend that and become creative in your own ways, right? At first you're kind of mimicking, and that's part of the creative process, is you mimic, and then you find things that are just your own. But those are things that you have to find. They're not something, I'm sure some people are creative right off the bat, and they have all these different things and different ideas of what they want to do and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't me. I had to mimic the people who I really looked up to, and then after that, find my own path, right? Find my own offshoots of that. And then, I feel like the first 10 years of my career, I was really just learning, right? And then the reality is, if I wouldn't have had so many concussions in the first part of my career, going to WWE wasn't necessarily something that was a desire of mine. But then it became something, William Regal was very instrumental in that, in the sense of, like he said, because I was contemplating getting out of wrestling then because of the concussions and all that kind of stuff, or at least slowing down while I go to college, that sort of thing. And he said, he encouraged me to go to WWE, and he encouraged me like a proper way to frame it in my mind, right? He's like, this is your chance to go save some money, right? You could pay off your house, all that kind of stuff. You could have a good career here, but just know, any wrestling that you get to do on top of this at WWE, that's just a bonus, right? Because you have to think, when I first got signed in 2009, it wasn't like they were using a lot of smaller wrestlers or a lot of independent guys or that sort of thing. And so anyways, turns out my WWE career was much more successful than even I had anticipated. And so it ended up being a lot of fun. You know what I mean? And I learned so much while I was there. I think of it as leaning really into the entertainment aspect of it, the entertainment aspect of pro wrestling. And I think because I leaned so heavily, it was different. When I was an independent wrestler, I would go to England, and I'd go wrestle at like Butlins, which is a holiday camp, which were almost entirely like entertainment. Like it wasn't for a hardcore wrestling fan. Will Ospreay calls it pantomime wrestling. It's like I'd go out there and I'd sing the national anthem, and I'd sing it very poorly, and then it was yay boo stuff in front of crowds that weren't necessarily wrestling fans and that sort of thing. But so I learned some of the entertainment stuff there, which William Regal really he really told me. He said, like, you're great at wrestling, but sometimes you're going to get hurt. And he said for him, doing the holiday camps and doing that sort of thing really made it so if he was hurt, he could do a match that was less physical on his body and still entertain the people and still do a good job, right? And when I think of William Regal, I think a lot of people think I think a lot of like maybe mainstream wrestling fans think of some of the more entertaining comedic aspects things that he did, which he was fantastic at, but he was also a fantastic wrestler. And so that was kind of something that I aspired to. My WWE career, I felt like was really leaning into the entertainment aspect of that. And trying to highlight, highlight the wrestling where I could, and then the my AEW run has really felt to me from like a creative aspect is putting it all together. Like it took me 20 years to put it all together, right? Of the entertainment and the wrestling and knowing who I am as a person and knowing who I am as a character and all that kind of stuff. And so to me, this has been like, the funnest. And I think if you look at just like the matches in my mind, I've had the best matches of my career in AEW, now whether they've been difference makers or not, that's a different thing entirely. But but from a creative aspect, as far, I haven't, these last 3 years have been, one, the funnest 3 years of my career, but also the wrestling matches that I've enjoyed the most.
Awesome.